Imagine this. You're attending a wedding. The family is dressed in traditional clothes, incense fills the air, food has been prepared for the guests, prayers are being whispered. Everything looks normal. Except for one terrifying detail. The bride died months ago. And the groom, he's dead too. But here's the real question. Why would anyone marry two people who are already dead? And why did some families risk breaking the law just to find a ghost bride? To understand that, we need to travel back more than 2,000 years. In ancient China, family wasn't just important while you were alive. It was believed that your family continued even after death. Ancestors were respected deeply. Families offered food, incense, and prayers because they believed their ancestors still existed in another world. Death wasn't considered the end. It was simply another stage of existence. And just like the living, the dead were believed to have needs. They could feel lonely. They could miss their families. And according to traditional beliefs, they could even remain unhappy if important life events were never completed. One of those events was marriage. Imagine a young man who died before getting married. His family believed his spirit would enter the afterlife alone, without a spouse, without descendants, without completing one of the most important responsibilities of adulthood. Some believed such spirits could become restless. Others feared they might bring bad luck to the family. Whether those fears were true or not, the belief itself was powerful enough to shape an extraordinary tradition. It became known as Minghun, or ghost marriage. Ghost marriage wasn't about love in the modern sense. It wasn't about romance. It was about family, honor, tradition, and spiritual peace. Families believed that if two unmarried spirits were united in marriage, both souls could finally rest. The marriage also symbolically connected two families, just as a normal wedding would. To them, the afterlife was simply another world where social traditions continued. So how did these weddings actually happen? Surprisingly, they looked very similar to weddings between living people. A suitable bride or groom was chosen. Sometimes both people had already passed away. Sometimes only one had died. Families consulted matchmakers. Dates were selected carefully. Offerings were prepared. Traditional wedding clothing was used. Incense burned throughout the ceremony. Paper houses, money, clothes, servants, and even paper jewelry were burned as gifts for the spirits. The idea was simple. Whatever was burned in this world would reach them in the next. After the ceremony, the ancestral tablets of the couple could be placed together. In the eyes of the family, the marriage had officially happened, even if neither person was alive. But things became even stranger. Sometimes, a living person married someone who had already died. Why? Usually because the deceased had been engaged before death, or because the family wanted to fulfill a promise that had already been made. The living spouse might never remarry. They would continue honoring their deceased husband or wife for the rest of their lives. From today's perspective, it sounds unimaginable, but in the cultural beliefs of that time, it represented loyalty and respect. Not every family believed in ghost marriage, and practices varied greatly across different regions of China. Some ceremonies were symbolic, others were elaborate. There was never one universal way to perform them. Local customs, family traditions, and religious beliefs all influenced how the ceremony took place. For centuries, ghost marriages quietly remained part of traditional life. Then, modern China began changing rapidly. Cities grew. Education expanded. Scientific thinking became more common. Many younger generations no longer believed spirits required marriage after death. The tradition slowly faded. You might think, that's where the story ends. Unfortunately, it doesn't. As ghost marriages became rarer, something disturbing happened. Some families desperately wanted a deceased bride for an unmarried son. But finding one wasn't easy. Demand increased. And criminals saw an opportunity. Grave robbers began stealing bodies. Instead of respecting the dead, they treated human remains like products. Families secretly paid enormous amounts of money for the remains of young women. This illegal underground market shocked the entire country. Police uncovered cases where graves had been disturbed. Authorities strengthened investigations. And ghost marriages involving stolen remains became serious criminal offenses. What had once been a spiritual tradition was now being exploited for profit. It's important to understand something here. These crimes do not represent traditional Chinese culture as a whole. Most Chinese people today do not practice ghost marriage. Many have never even witnessed one. Modern China is incredibly diverse, and the overwhelming majority of people reject illegal activities connected to this tradition. The criminal cases received worldwide attention precisely because they were shocking and unusual. So, does ghost marriage still exist today? In a few isolated rural communities? Yes. Some families still arrange symbolic ceremonies based on ancestral beliefs, but they are extremely rare compared to the past. Most people today view them as historical customs rather than everyday traditions. China has modernized dramatically over the last century, and traditions like ghost marriage have largely disappeared from daily life. But here's something fascinating. Nearly every culture has tried to answer the same question. What happens after death? Some build pyramids. Some bury treasures. Some perform elaborate funeral ceremonies. And some arrange weddings for spirits. Whether you believe these traditions or not, they reveal something deeply human. Across thousands of years, people have always searched for ways to care for those they loved, even after they were gone. Ghost marriage wasn't created because people loved death. It existed because people struggled to let go of those they had lost. It reflected hope that family bonds could survive beyond a lifetime. Today, the ghost bride tradition remains one of the most mysterious chapters in Chinese history. A custom that sounds like something from a horror story. Yet it was born from love, duty, family honor, and a belief that death wasn't the end. It reminds us that history is filled with traditions that seem impossible today, yet made perfect sense to the people who lived them. And perhaps, the strangest part isn't that ghost marriages once existed. The strangest part is how far humans are willing to go to keep love, family, and tradition alive, even beyond death.